make America great again.
Donald John Trump, born on June in Queens, New York, is a businessman, television personality, and politician who served as the President of the United States from 2. Known for his brash style, bold decisions, and divisive politics, Trump's career has been marked by major successes, controversies, and historical milestones. Trump was raised in a privileged household by his father, Fred Trump, a wealthy real estate developer, and mother, Mary Ann MacLeod Trump, a Scottish immigrant. His early education took him to the New York Military Academy, followed by studies at Fordham University, and later the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned a degree in economics. His father's real estate business, the Trump Organization, became his entry point into the business world, and Trump took control of the company, expanding it into high-profile ventures such as Trump Tower, casinos, and luxury hotels. Despite facing multiple bankruptcies in the Trump's public image as a successful businessman endured, aided by his role as host of the popular TV show, The Apprentice. Trump's political journey began when he announced his candidacy for the presidency. Running as a Republican, he focused on populist issues like immigration reform, economic protectionism, and his America First agenda. His win in the election against Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton was a political upset, as he secured the Electoral College while losing the popular vote. His victory marked the rise of populism and nationalist rhetoric in American politics. As president, Trump implemented significant changes, including tax cuts, deregulation, and a tough stance on immigration, including efforts to build a border wall with Mexico. He withdrew the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement, renegotiated trade deals, and met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in an attempt to resolve tensions. However, his presidency was also marked by considerable controversy. Trump faced impeachment over allegations of abuse of power and obstruction in connection with his dealings with Ukraine, but was acquitted by the Senate. He was impeached a second time after a mob of his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol on January in an attempt to overturn the results of the election. He was again acquitted by the Senate, but the riot remains one of the most significant events of his presidency. In the election, Trump lost to Democrat Joe Biden, but he and many of his supporters claimed widespread election fraud, despite a lack of evidence. This refusal to concede deepened political divides in the country and led to a tumultuous end to his presidency. Beyond his political and business endeavors, Trump's personal life has been equally high-profile. He has been married 3 times, first to Ivana Trump, with whom he has 3 children, then to Marla Maples, with whom he has 1 daughter, and finally to Melania Trump, who gave birth to his youngest son, Barron. Donald Trump's legacy is deeply polarizing, admired by many for his unorthodox approach to politics and his efforts to challenge the political establishment, while criticized by others for his divisive rhetoric and policies. Whether viewed as a disruptor or a controversial figure, his influence on the Republican Party and American politics is undeniable and will be studied for years to come. The President of the United States remains one of the most influential and controversial figures in modern political history. From his unexpected rise to power to his multiple impeachments and the events surrounding the January Capitol riot, Trump has left an undeniable mark on American and global affairs. 4 key events define his legacy: his presidential election victory, his 2 impeachments, his response to the COVID pandemic, and the January riot. One of the most significant moments in Trump's career was his election victory. Running as a political outsider, Trump defeated Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton in a shocking upset. His campaign, built on nationalism, economic populism, and the slogan "Make America Great Again," resonated with many working-class Americans. Although he lost the popular vote, he secured the presidency through the Electoral College, reshaping American politics and challenging traditional political norms. Another historic milestone in Trump's presidency was his 2 impeachments, making him the only U.S. president in history to face impeachment twice. His first impeachment stemmed from allegations that he pressured Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden in exchange for military aid. The House of Representatives impeached him, but he was acquitted by the Senate. His second impeachment, following the January Capitol riot, accused him of inciting insurrection. Once again, he was acquitted, but the events fueled deep divisions in the country. Trump's handling of the COVID pandemic also defined his presidency. While his administration launched Operation Warp Speed, a program that expedited vaccine development, his response to the crisis was highly controversial. He often downplayed the severity of the virus, opposed strict lockdown measures, and clashed with health experts. The pandemic became a central issue in the election, contributing to his defeat against Joe Biden. Perhaps the most consequential event of Trump's presidency was the January Capitol riot. After losing the election, Trump repeatedly claimed that the results were fraudulent. On January, he delivered a speech urging his supporters to march to the Capitol, where Congress was certifying Biden's victory. The demonstration turned violent as rioters stormed the Capitol, leading to deaths, injuries, and widespread condemnation. This unprecedented attack on American democracy led to Trump's second impeachment and further cemented his divisive legacy. Donald Trump's presidency was marked by significant political and historical events that shaped the United States. His election victory signaled a shift in American politics. His two impeachments set new historical precedents. His response to COVID defined a global crisis. And the Capitol riot highlighted the deep political divisions in the country. Whether admired or criticized, his influence on American history remains undeniable. From the beginning of the term, the executive orders issued by the U.S. president have sparked controversy, especially those related to immigration, federal budget, and citizenship rights. For President Donald Trump, these orders not only fulfilled his campaign promises, but also asserted executive power. However, many of these orders faced legal barriers, encountering numerous lawsuits and interventions from federal judges. According to the U.S. Constitution, the president has the authority to issue executive orders to implement policies without the approval of Congress. However, these orders must still comply with the Constitution, not infringe on the legislative power of Congress, and must not contradict judicial principles. This forms the foundation of the checks and balances system in American politics. During the first days of his term, President Trump signed more executive orders than any other U.S. president in over years. This led to a series of legal disputes, as many orders were deemed to exceed the authority of the executive branch. Up to this point, some of the most legally challenged executive orders issued by President Trump include: President Donald Trump signed orders to initiate a large-scale deportation campaign against illegal immigrants immediately upon taking office. This plan focused on individuals with criminal records, recent border crossers, or those already ordered for deportation by the court. Trump signed an executive order to terminate birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to parents without legal status. According to him, children born in the U.S. would only receive American citizenship if at least one parent was a U.S. citizen, a legal permanent resident, or a member of the U.S. military. Trump restarted construction of the U.S.-Mexico border wall, one of the key policies of his first term, which had been halted by the Biden administration. Aside from immigration policies, President Trump implemented several major policies in other areas. Revoking President Biden's electric vehicle policy, Trump ended incentives for electric vehicles and focused on fossil fuel exploitation. Declaring a national energy emergency, he removed barriers to oil and gas extraction, including expanding drilling in Alaska. Withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, Trump continued his America First approach to international environmental agreements. Ending diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI programs, he canceled DEI programs within the federal government, claiming they were divisive and unnecessary. Reevaluating relations with the World Health Organization, WHO, Trump signed an order to withdraw from WHO, accusing the organization of lacking transparency and being biased, while pledging to redirect funding to domestic health initiatives. Allowing TikTok to resume services in the U.S., Trump temporarily permitted TikTok to operate again, enabling negotiations for a national security agreement amid mounting pressure on its parent company, ByteDance, to separate from the app. During Trump's first term, about miles of barriers were built along the southern border, but only miles were in previously unprotected areas. Recognizing only two genders, Trump signed an executive order regarding gender identity. The details were not immediately disclosed, but some reports suggested that the order would establish a U.S. policy recognizing only two biological sexes, male and female. Donald Trump officially abolished the U.S. Department of Education exactly 2 months after taking office as the President of the United States. This was a long-standing promise from his second-term campaign, first announced on September and repeatedly mentioned throughout his campaign. He took steps to fulfill this commitment on March by signing an executive order that he claimed would begin the process of permanently eliminating the Federal Department of Education. One of Trump's most controversial executive orders was the policy on birthright citizenship. He signed an order to end automatic citizenship for children born to undocumented immigrants in the U.S. However, this order was swiftly blocked by federal judges in New Hampshire, Seattle, and Maryland. Meanwhile, his trade policies, such as imposing tariffs on Mexico, China, and Canada, also faced opposition from businesses and economic interest groups, who argued that these measures would harm the U.S. economy rather than protect national interests. February, President Trump signed executive orders imposing a tariff on all goods imported from Mexico and Canada, with the exception of Canadian oil and energy exports, which were subjected to a tariff. These tariffs were scheduled to take effect on February. March, following negotiations, the implementation of these tariffs was delayed by 1 month. However, on this date, the tariffs were enacted as planned. Canada responded with retaliatory tariffs of $1 billion worth of U.S. goods, including steel, aluminum, and various other products. Mexico announced its intention to implement countermeasures but initially held off on immediate retaliation. February, an executive order imposed a tariff on all goods imported from China, citing ongoing concerns over trade imbalances and other issues. March, the tariff rate on Chinese imports was increased to, reflecting escalating trade tensions between the two nations. March, the U.S. implemented a tariff on all steel and aluminum imports worldwide. This action aimed to protect domestic metal industries and was a continuation of similar measures from President Trump's first term. Notably, this round of tariffs eliminated previous exemptions and raised the aluminum tariff from 2. March, President Trump announced plans to introduce reciprocal tariffs targeting all nations that impose tariffs on U.S. exports. This policy, set to be unveiled on April, aims to match the tariff rates that other countries apply to American goods, promoting what the administration terms fair trade. Economists at Goldman Sachs have projected that these tariff measures could lead to a percentage point increase in U.S. tariffs they anticipate this could slow economic growth, prompting the Federal Reserve to implement interest rate cuts as a form of economic insurance. The announcement of these tariffs has introduced volatility into global markets, with concerns about potential trade wars and their impact on international supply chains. Analysts have expressed apprehension about the potential for a global economic slowdown resulting from these protectionist measures. President Trump's tariff policies represent a significant shift towards protectionism, aiming to reduce trade deficits and encourage domestic production. While intended to strengthen the U.S. economy, these measures have sparked international tensions and raised concerns about their broader economic impact. The coming months will be critical in assessing the effectiveness and consequences of these trade policies. Donald Trump is a public figure, so I believe that every time he issues an executive order, he must think long and hard before making a decision. If we were in his position, wouldn't it also be very difficult for us to make the right choice? I hope we can all understand that. What do you think about this topic? Please share your thoughts and write them in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give a like. Thank you so much.